Hi there, I'm Kathy Sciere. Welcome to the show. We're serving up straight talk for women entrepreneurs, and today we tackle the ticklish topic of selling. My guest is Tracey Webber, and she is a master salesperson in her own right. She's CEO and Chief Sales Strategist of TraceyWebber.com, sales solutions for your business. Now, get this, she has generated more than $2 billion in sales revenue over the past 20 years. And she's been coaching business and salespeople for the last 10. Tracey, welcome. So nice to have you here.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm very happy to be here. We appreciate it.
So let's start off by why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, and who you serve, who you do it with.
Great. Thank you. I am what I call the CEO of my company, the business sales strategist. And actually, what I do is I work with entrepreneurs, salespeople, and corporations on helping them with their sales strategies, looking at what's going on with their current environment, and helping them put together strategies and look for where their opportunities are to help them increase their revenues, reduce their cost of sales as well.
So how did you get into sales initially?
It's an interesting story. So I was working for an IT, Wang Labs, in fact, company, and I was a support salesperson. I was just, running around doing customer service work, and one day I just decided I wanted to be a salesperson. And there was an opening, and I went to my boss and his boss, and I had a good relationship with them, and said, "Be a salesperson." And they said, "Nope, you can't be because you need 5 years of experience before you can be a salesperson." I said, "Well, that's not going to work. I don't want to wait 5 years." Um, so I eventually was able to convince them that I would get my own training and do this. And they said, "Well, we're not sure we want to do it because we really like you in the role you're in, and we're afraid that you'll fail in sales." And that
Nice.
yeah, it's so nice that they said that you fail in sales and then we would lose you forever. And I said, "Well, here's the deal. I've already decided this is what I want to do. I know this is where I'm going to go, and I really like to do it here. And if I can't, I'm going to end up leaving anyway. So you can either I'll be saying goodbye soon, or you can take a chance and see what happens." And fortunately for me, I did really well. Started out within the first, I think it was the first month of the first quarter, I actually won a prize.
Wow.
So it's been fun ever since.
You seem to me like one of those people who was born to sell, and you love it and you excel at it and you have for your entire career. And I think a lot of us think that, that's it. You're either born a good salesperson or you're not. I
Mm.
mean, is there any truth to that in your experience? I mean, do you have to sort of be born with that innate talent and personality, or is it a skill you can actually learn?
It's both. I think everyone's born a salesperson. In fact, I know we are because we're unable to do anything for ourselves but cry and ask for things. So we have to start selling as soon as we're born. And our parents need to be receptive to it. And we do negotiations with them as soon as we're born and whoever's taking care of us. What happens, though, is that as life starts to evolve around us, we get fearful. We get fearful of rejection. We want to be liked. We're in environments that tell us not to speak up, and these are the things that happen. And it happened to me. I probably I spoke as little as possible from first grade through 12th grade, actually eighth grade. Um, just was not outgoing, was not comfortable asking for things, and it evolves. And so it's we're born to sell because that's how we survive, and we are also need to learn the skills after we've been gone through a lot of other things.
Right.
Um, yeah,
So I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. I've never thought about that in that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
So many people, entrepreneurs, coaches, and are just really, really uncomfortable with selling. Now it's like, oh, it's icky. I don't want to feel like sleazy, and they do almost anything rather than pick up the phone and make a sales call.
Right.
Do you think the primary reason for that discomfort is that fear of rejection?
That is a primary thing of it. It's fear of rejection. It's fear of not being liked.
Mm,
In some cases, it's fear that you're not going to deliver on what you have. There's a whole. It's definitely fear would be the reason for
right.
not doing it. Um, and that's something that is easily overcome when you just think about the other side of fear. Like everything has an equal and opposite, right? An equal opposite to it. So if there's fear, there's also a lot of courage behind that.
And so, how do you help a client who's kind of in that frame of mind
hmm
shift their mindset?
Um, well, it's a number of things. One of the reasons, especially with entrepreneurs, I love working with them. If it's their first business in particular, they struggle because what they don't realize when they build their business is there's no business without selling. They
Right.
know they need clients, but clients don't naturally just come to you. If they do, then you could probably make a lot more money if you have sales skills. And
Mm,
what you want to pay attention to is I'll put it this way. When I was in the corporate world, I was much better at picking up sales and feeling comfortable about it because I really believed in what I was doing.
uh-huh.
I did have a situation at one point where I was working for a company. I sold a couple of things and I realized they weren't delivering what they said they would deliver.
Hmm.
At that point, I really had a hard time selling it. And that is the real key mindset is no matter what business you're in, if you're selling for someone else or if you're selling for your own business, it's believing in what you're doing and understanding how it's going to change someone's life. Even if it's a tube of toothpaste, that
Mm-hmm.
changes someone's life because they have nicer breath. If they have bad breath, they get a different reaction from the people around them. And their teeth start to rot. So you want to think about whatever you're providing to someone, whenever you have a business, your business is going to change someone's life. So entrepreneurs struggle the most because, and I know this for a fact or from experience, when I left the corporate world, I went from doing really well in sales to all of a sudden going, oh my God, I have to sell myself.
Yeah.
And it was a little freaky. I thought, well, when they say no, they're saying no to me. Had to get that out of my
Mm-hmm.
head. That's the number one thing is when a client is saying no to you, they're saying no to themselves. It's not a
Hmm.
no to you. And it's really about, it's part of your job when you're speaking to someone and talking to them about a service that they need to help them see how it's going to move them forward in their life. And that's what I call the first coaching call. If you're a coach, that's your first coaching call with your client.
Before I do want to talk to you more about that and the whole sales conversation, but before we do that, you talk a lot about niche and you put a lot of emphasis on it. And do you think that having a good, solid grasp of your niche and who your ideal clients are is essential to being a good salesperson and signing clients?
That's the number one thing, Kathy. You really do want to know your client. It will give you better results. It'll make your life a lot easier, and you'll have more fun with it. One of the things you want to know, no matter whether it's a product or service, is how that's going to impact somebody, how it's going to change their life.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on? What problem are you solving for them? Even even Walt Disney, he understood. When
Yeah.
he built the amusement park, he was building a way for families to have more fun and together. So people buy those tickets because they want to have more fun with their family, right? They want to feel some joy and happiness. So there's very specific people that would go to Walt Disney, to Disneyland or Disney World. And when you understand your niche, what you really want to do is get very familiar with the very specific person that you're going to work with. And one of the things that I see entrepreneurs make a mistake with is they create a program and then they try to find out who would be a good fit for it,
Mm.
right? So what you really should do is identify a problem or some type of solution that you're providing to a specific audience and then build something around that. So identify where there's a need and then build something around that. That will make a big difference in your business, but it also helps with identifying, helps you know exactly where your
Yeah.
market is. It helps you promote your product. It helps you communicate in their language. And it also helps you understand what motivates them. What's their, what I call the emotional motivator.
And then a sale really is based on emotions, much more than say the features or whether it's a car or whatever. It's it's
Exactly.
it's not the fact that it's a red car. It's the way the red car makes you feel.
Exactly. It's like when I look around, how many pocketbooks are there?
Oh
They
my,
all do the same thing. They hold stuff for us
a
so we
lot
can
of
get them
junk
out.
for us.
Yeah, so they hold stuff for us. But wow, you can spend $1 and you can spend thousands of dollars
Right.
on a pocketbook.
Yeah, so
You're
true. And
right.
it's the one that strikes you and you say like, I have to have that because it's gonna make me feel like a million
Exactly.
bucks.
Exactly. Right. It's how it makes you feel.
Well, Matt, let's get to mastering the sales conversation because I think this is really important. And I know that you are a master of it and that you teach it in a way that I think is very effective.
Hmm.
So, why don't you just walk us through that? I know there are a number of steps that you go through in that selling conversation.
Okay. And the sales conversation is really a conversation. It's not necessarily about selling. It's about being curious and understanding what's going on for somebody. And moms are really good at this when they're dealing with their kids, right? When they want to get their child to do something and the kid's saying no, or they want something. So really where the conversation starts out is, what do you want?
Mm.
You literally will ask your client, what's the goal? What would they like to change in their life? What would they like to see happen?
Mm-hmm.
When someone does that, you're being curious and you're letting them speak about this.
Right.
It's very important for you to stay connected with the client, but also dr- drive the conversation and stay focused because people will tend to get all over the place with their story, especially if they get a little uncomfortable. And what you want to do is take them out of their head, talking from their head, and get inside here, where they're really giving you the truth and not just some reactive answer.
Right.
So you ask them, what do they want? And they'll tell you, and that's probably coming from their head. Say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I want to make double my income or double my sales next year. Okay, why do you want that? What's going to change for you? What will be the impact if that happens to you? And what you're looking for in that part of the conversation is not just the, oh, well, I can buy a bigger house answer. You want the answer that really gets inside here. So you keep peeling it back. It's kind of like an onion. You just keep peeling the layers, and you get curious. And you keep doing that until the client is no longer in their head and they're really in a thinking mode.
Mm-hmm.
They're like coming from their heart. And you'll see this shift in your client. You'll hear it in their voice. You'll see it in their face if they're with you. You also want to, keep them out of the story, right? Because that's their way of trying to get out of that uncomfortableness. Because once you get them
Oh,
there, right, and they're talking about why they want it, what you may not realize is a lot of people aren't talking this way to each other. So now that you're giving them an opportunity to say what they
mm-hmm.
want, why they want it, they're starting to feel very connected to you, and they may have aha moments of things they didn't even think of.
Right. They may be saying things that they've felt for a long time but never even articulated. This is
Exactly.
the first time they're putting it into words.
Exactly. And then the next thing you want to do is ask them what what will happen if they don't change that,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they or what will get in their way from that happening? Right? These are things that you want your client to think about, or whoever you're working with. And also, a big piece is, what is it costing you if you don't change the situation?
And you don't mean just financially, although there usually is a financial component.
There's always a financial
Ah.
component, and people won't believe it. It is amazing, and this is a piece that you have to practice in some cases, depending on what your sale is about. Uh, you know, like toothpaste, I don't think there's a cost in that, but a lot of times, a lot of the clients I'm working with, there is a cost involved with not making a change, without not making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say decision, the goal of any conversation or sales conversation is to get your client to make a decision. It's either yes or it's no, not to leave the conversation with a maybe. You really want to get them to yes or no because that's how you move them forward. That's how you make a change in their life. Now, if you're in a business to make a difference in someone's
Mm-hmm.
life, this is how you do it. You help them be empowered to make a decision for themselves.
And that's why
Yeah,
it's really a coaching call, not
it's
a selling call.
right. It's a
It,
coaching call, and if you look at it that way, it's your first opportunity to see, one, if you can help them, and two, if they're coachable.
uh, that's
You know, so
important.
yeah, it's very important, especially for coaches. You may have clients that have they're your poster child with the problem, but they're not coachable. They're
Yeah,
not ready.
absolutely.
And if they, you know, or you can't coach them if you can't
Hmm.
control that conversation.
And that's the time you want to find out, not later.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what happens with, I think one of the most difficult things for a lot of people can get through all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
then they get up to the point where they have to talk about the investment or the money,
Right.
and they, they just kind of freak out.
Yes, because this is when you're starting to feel, um, am I good enough? Is my program good enough? Do I have to give them more? And we start to get a little bit of a panic and fear, especially in the beginning. If you've gone through the conversation with the client, very curious state, and have been in the place of helping them
Hmm.
in authority of that conversation, you are now in a position where you can say what you want to say to them is summarize the conversation, talk about what they wanted, why they wanted it, what gets in their way, what will happen if they don't change it, and what's the cost to them if they don't change it, what's the impact. You want to get the client to agree that that's what they said. Ask them if there's anything else. If there is, get curious, find out what it is. If there isn't, then say, okay, well, based on what you said, I can help you, or I have a program, if you're a coach, that will do X, Y, and Z and help you solve A, B, and C problems. And then say, is that what you're looking for?
Uh-huh.
So before you even give them the price, you kind of explain something that you may be able to offer to them and ask them if they think that will help them.
So if they're already agreeing that they think your solution will help them, then that
Exactly.
makes it a lot easier to talk about the investment.
Exactly. Exactly. And remind them about the urgency around it. Because in the conversation, you want to get to what's the urgency? Why would they need to buy from you? And then when they agree to that, you'll say, okay, well, the investment is, and then you get into that.
Hmm.
And then you let and see what happens. You don't go and change it. You don't offer any program, different ways of payment programs. You just wait and see what happens. And this is when you start dealing with objections. And there are lots of different objections. Actually, I do spend a lot of time just in separate classes on objections. But one
That could be a
objection,
whole nother show, right?
it is a whole nother show. It's actually could be like four different shows because there's
Mm,
lots of different objections. But the one objection a lot of people will say is, oh, I don't have the money,
right.
which is so frustrating, especially if you have the cost conversation with them and they say they don't have the money, but then you see that they're losing a lot of money.
Hmm.
When you get an objection like that, and I'll just give everyone one little nugget here, is when they say that to them, what you want to do is clarify what they mean by that. And you don't want to say, what do you mean by that?
Right.
A question you can ask is it that you don't have any money or you don't have the money for this?
Mm,
And the way they answer that's going to help you
right.
understand what's going on with the client. If they say they don't have money for this, then there's not enough urgency around it, or
Right.
you need to do a little bit more coaching with them. If they don't have money for it, they say, I have absolutely no
Hmm.
money. I am maxed out on everything. And you know that the urgency is there for them and they really want to do it, then you want to coach them on how do you find the money?
Right.
How do they find the money? It doesn't become your problem. This is not an opportunity for you to give away your services. It's an opportunity for
Good
you to
point.
help them find out where they can get the money. And my mentor uses this analogy all the time, and some people are really offended by it. But if your child or someone you loved was kidnapped, and you had to come up with $100,000 in 5 days, and you had no money, you would get serious about getting that money.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is kind of an extreme, but
it
does
is,
make the point. It cuts through.
yeah,
You know exactly what he's talking
yeah.
about.
Exactly. And I think about I've done a lot of investing in myself and my business, and a lot of times it would have made no sense on paper whatsoever, but I had a very strong desire for the result.
Right.
And you want your client to understand how much they want the result that you can give them. And that's why you want to go deep with them, to get them to really understand that what they want, you can help them with.
That's great advice. I just want to ask you one more question. And that goes back a little bit more to you personally and in your career,
Okay?
and particularly with your business. What's the one decision that you made that you think has had the biggest impact on your business?
To invest in myself. That changed everything. Once I stopped trying to do it all myself and I invested in my business, in myself, hiring my team, changed everything.
I think that's key. God,
Yeah,
I hear so many people say that, and particularly the second part of that, which is also investing in yourself, is
yeah.
hiring team because, we may call ourselves solo entrepreneurs, but nobody really does it alone. You can't.
Oh no, the amount of time you save is phenomenal. When you can hand off something to somebody else,
Yeah.
my background was selling outsourcing services in the 90s and 2000s, and boy, outsourcing is amazing. It really increases your income.
Yeah, well, that's what you always have to keep in mind, how much more you're going to make if you pay out a little bit to get the help.
Yeah, and Catherine, that brings up something for me. One of the big things I work on with clients is there's a fear when you say, "Oh, but I don't have enough income to support a team." It all comes down to faith. You have to believe that you are going to provide a good service, that you belong where you belong, and that you will make money. As long as
Yeah.
you have that faith, it will come to you. And that's a big piece that I work on with people is working on their faith around believing what they can do and that they can build this business.
And I know you've personally helped me with that at times, so I really have appreciated that.
Oh, thank you. You've done a great job.
Well, listen, I have really enjoyed this because I've learned a lot, and I think selling is so tricky, and it's obviously essential to any successful business for an entrepreneur. So
Yes.
I do have one little more question for you, and that's where can people find you?
Well, they can find me, and I love that you asked this question, at TraceyWebber.com. It's www.Tracey, Tracey, Weber, Webber.com. It's very simple.
That is nice and easy. Well, Tracey, this has been awesome, and I hope we get a chance to talk again, and maybe we'll just do a whole show on objections someday.
Oh, that would be great. I love it. Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate it and love your audience.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracey, and take care.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed our conversation and picked up some good insights and advice. And if you liked this interview, please share it with your friends and visit my website. Here's the easy address, thecathyshow.com. And leave me some comments and subscribe to my email list so you can get my next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Till next time, wishing you brilliant health and downright ridiculous wealth.